Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Memhei Amud Beis, starting with Memhei Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom at the new Mishnah. Our Mishnah discusses whether a person can be koine shvisa while he's sleeping. Does he get 2,000 amos from the time that the onset of Shabbos if he is not aware? Says the Mishnah, Misha Yoshen betoich bederech v'lo yoda shechashecha. A person, he's outside the Techum, and he then takes a rest, he sleeps on the road, and he doesn't know that the entrance to Shabbos has just come. It becomes now dark. Yesh loy alpayim amo lekol ruach. He has 2,000 amos in every direction, according to Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that he was koine shvisa, even though he was not awake and aware. Nonetheless, he is koine shvisa, and he has 2,000 amos in all directions. He only has daled amos. He can't go beyond daled amos for where he is situated on the onset of Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer Omer v'hu be'emtzon. Now, this daled amos that we just mentioned, what is the daled amos that we're referring to? According to Rabbi Eliezer, he says, hu be'emtzon. He's in the middle of the daled amos, meaning to say that he has 2 amos in all directions. So it comes out to be, it's really 4 amos squared. And we consider him to be then in the middle of the area where he can have 2 amos in all directions. Rabbi Yehuda argues and says he can have 4 amos from whichever direction he wants to take now. He's not in the middle. And therefore, if he decides to go now to the Mizrach, he has now 4 amos in that direction. And Rabbi Yehuda agrees, if he already decides and he takes a step towards the Mizrach, to the east, then he has committed himself, he can no longer go to the west. Those are going to be his Dalet Amos. Says the Mishnah, Hayushnayim, if there are 2 people, Miktsas Amoiser Shelzeh b'toch Amoiser Shelzeh, where part of this one's Amos is overlapping with the other person's. In other words, you have 2 people that are 6 amos apart. So their Dalet amos are going to overlap. There's going to be 2 amos that is going to be in common with the 2 of them. Mevin va'oichlin ba'emtza, they can bring oichel, and from their part to the middle part, where it's the shared area, and they can eat. On top of them, hey Amud Beis, providing that they don't take from their own personal 2 amos and then bring into the other person's personal 2 amos. Then that would be an infraction that would be going on beyond the Dalet amos. The Mishnah continues, if there are 3 individuals, the middle person, he is going to be overlapping with the 2 on either end. Hu mutar imahen vehem mutarin imoy. He is going to be mutar with their Dalet amos, the part that's going to be overlapping, and they are going to be able to also then have the area that is overlapping that's going to be enjoining the 2. V'shnayim hachitzonim asurin zeh im zeh. But the 2 outer ones, they don't have a common area, and therefore their Dalet amos is not going to be able to then be together with the other ones at Dalet amos. Omer Rabbi Shimon, lema hadavar doime. What is this compared to this latter scenario when you have 3 people and the middle one is sharing some of the Dalet amos with the 2 chitzonios, whereby he's able to then enjoin. So this is compared, he says, l'sholosh chatzeros hapsuchos zu lezu. When you have 3 courtyards, 3 chatzeros open to each other. So you have 1, 2, and 3 beside each other, and each one has an opened area to enter the other chatzer. So from each chatzer you can enter from one to the next, and from the middle to the other one as well. And it says, upsuchos l'reshus harabim. And each one of these chatzeros is also open to the Rishus HaRabim. So again, you have 3 chatzeros, one next to the other one, where each one has an entrance to the one that is next to them, and each one also has an opening to the Rishus HaRabim. So says the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon, Irvu shtayim im ha'entzois. Two of them, they can make, mean both on each side, both chatzeros can make an erev chatzeros together with the middle chatzer, whereby you can go ahead and then take objects from their chatzer to the middle chatzer, and vice versa. He mutaras imahem vehem mutaras ima. However, the two outer chatzeros, they cannot join with the other one, and therefore you cannot carry an object from one to the next. Says the Mishnah with the following question: Boy Rava, my kisova Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What was Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's? What was he holding when he said that a person who is sleeping on the onset of Shabbos is koine 2,000 amos in all directions? What is his shita? What does he hold? Misbar kasovar, does he hold chefze hefker koinin shvisa? That an object that is ownerless, that nonetheless it is koine shvisa. That means to say on the onset of Shabbos, this object will also then have the din of 2,000 amos in all directions. Ubedinhu deliflug bekelim, and indeed, the Chachamim could argue with Yochanan ben Nuri in our Mishnah in a case of kelim. But the reason why they argue in a case of a person, whether a person who is sleeping is kind of shvisa or not, to explain the position, the strength of the Rabbanon who say Yoni has Daled Amos. Even though one can say that since a person, if he's awake, so therefore he would be kind of shvisa. So you'll say now that he's sleeping, he'll also be kind of shvisa because it's a person. Kamash malan deloy. Still, the Chachamim say he is not kind of shvisa, and therefore he only gets daled amos. But equally, they can also argue in a case where it was an object that was ownerless. Does the ownerless object also kind of shvisa on the onset of Shabbos or not? That's one side. Or dilma kesav Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. We're trying to explain what is the position, what does Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri hold? So this is one suggestion, that he holds that an object that is ownerless is kind of shvisa. Or dilma, or perhaps the second side, kesav Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ba'alma chetze hefker ein kind of shvisa. He holds really that it's not kind of shvisa if an ownerless object. Ve'hocha hainu taima. And over here the reason is hoya v'nei kana yashinami kana. Since when a person is aware, he's awake, he is kind of shvisa. So therefore, we also said he's kind of shvisa when he's yashin, when he's sleeping. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, although he is sleeping on the onset of Shabbos, he is kind of shvisa. Omar, so these are the two tzdadim. What is the position of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Omar, Rav Yosef, Toshma, let's bring a proof. Geshamim sheyardu me'erev yomtiv. Sheyardu me'erev yomtiv. Yesh lo nalpayim ama lekol ruach. If you have rain that fell on Erev Yom Tif, on the onset of Yom Tif, so it says over here that they do get 2,000 amos in all directions when they fall. B'Yontif, harehen kiragle kol odam. If they fell, however, on Yontif, after the onset of Shabbos, on Yontif itself, then whoever is going to be then koina this water, this rain, water, then it will have 2,000 amos to the person who is koina. So if that person has 2,000 amos in one direction, let's say, he made an Erev Tchumim, to go now to the east, 2,000 amos, then he'll only have, then the object will have, in this case the water, the rainwater, 2,000 amos in that direction, just like the owner who was koine it. So now, the Gemara explains, if you want to say like the first sad, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that indeed, that a hefker object is kind of shvisa, then Hamani Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Then you have this rain that we're talking about that fell on Erev Shabbos, like the position of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that he gets 2,000 amos in all directions. But if you want to say like the second side that we suggested, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that really an ownerless object is not kind of shvisa, then Hamani la Rabbi Yochanan Rabbanan. Then this that we just quoted now, when it rains on Erev Shabbos, we have no opinion that says that it'll go 2,000 amos on the onset of Shabbos when it rained. So therefore, we're suggesting over here proof, like the first side, that indeed Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that an ownerless object does acquire shvisa, and therefore an Adam in our Mishnah who is sleeping on the onset of Shabbos is also kind of shvisa, even though he's not aware. Yosef Abaye was sitting and he was saying over this halacha. Omar le Rav Safra l'Abaye. Safra turned to Abaye and he said to him, "V'dilmo b'gesham masmuchim li'ir askinon." Perhaps over here in this that it's talking about in this brisa that the rain fell on Erev Yontif is talking about it's close to the ear where people are situated. And Anshe Oisa Ir Daitem Alayu, and they're thinking about this water. And that's why there's 2,000 amos in all directions. Omale. Abai says back to Rav Safra, Lo Salke Daitach. There's no such Havit Mina. This not because it says in the Mishnah, Bor Shel Yachid, Kiragle Yachid. A bor that is belonging to an Yachid, that will then have the status of the Ragle Yachid, his 2,000 amos, his tchum. And therefore, wherever his tchum is, that will then, the bor of that Yachid will also then get the same status. Vishal Oisa'ir, Karagle Oisa'ir. And the bor of the city, so then it'll have the status of the people of the city. And therefore have the ability to then go wherever it is in that city, and even 2,000 amos beyond that city. Vishel ole bavel kiragle hamemali, and those who are going up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, then it will also be like those who are going to be the ones who fill up the boros. Those are the ones who draw the water. The same tchum that they have will then also be the amount that this will have. This will take as well from the Ole Bavel. So it stays over here clearly that we see from this Mishnah that since the Ole Bavel is Keragle Hamamale, that means that even though that this was Hefker, nonetheless, the one who's going to then acquire it, he will then acquire it, and they'll get the tchum of him, the one who's mamala it. So we see over here that Hefker is not koine shvisa. On the other hand, the Gemara brings another brayse, Vitanya. Bor shel shvatim yesh len alpayim amal kol ruach. If a bor is belonging to tribes, then it will get 2,000 amos in all directions. So again, here we have a situation where the brayse is contradicting this Mishnah. Because here it's talking about these shvatim, these tribes, which is really the Ole Bavel. And here it says they do have alpaim am in all directions. So we see over here that they're koine shvisa, and not like the Ragle Kol Adam. So we see a contradiction. Ask the Gemara, Kashan Adodi. So we have a contradiction. Is it that Hefker, an object that's Hefker, does get 2,000 amos, or is it Kil Ragle Ha'adam, the person who is koine it? Elalash mamina, harab Yochanan ben Nuri, harabon. Rather, we must say then that this machloek, this stira, this contradiction between the Mishnah and the Brisa that we just quoted, is really these two opinions. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is like the latter, the Brisa that we just quoted as saying that he gets 2,000 amos in all directions. And the Mishnah stated that it's kiragle, the oile bavel, that's like the opinion of the Chachamim. Rav Yosef, when they came before Rav Yosef, Omar Lei, Rav Yosef said to him, said to Abaye, Hochi ka Omar Rav Safra. Sorry, Abaye says to Rav Yosef, this is what Rav Safra had just said to me, V'hochi ahadri lei, and this is what I then retorted to him. And that is the whole shakla v'tari that we just made, that I suggested, Abaye says, that indeed that it's stated before when it rains on Erev Yontif, and we say over there you get 2,000 amos. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Whereas Rav Safra then came and he said to me, but there's people who are soymech, perhaps, to the rainwater, the people who live in the city nearby, and they have das on the water. And therefore, that's why it's kind of 2,000 amos. To which I then retorted to him, that can't be. Abai is explaining what he said back to Rav Safra. That can't be. He said, because after all, it says over here, Bor shel oile bavel, they have kiragle hamale, and then we quoted a brisa that stated that you do it 2,000 amos. So we see that there's two shitas. The shita of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that says that indeed an object that is hefker does kind of shvisa. Omale. So now Rav Yosef says back to Abai, Va'amai loitemo lemigufa. Why didn't you bring the brisa itself to then counter Rav Safra? This is what Rav Yosef says to Abai. If it's indeed true, like you're suggesting, Rav Safra, that we're talking about the rain fell next to a city where their das was on that rain, and that's why there's 2,000 amos, then yesh lohen alpayim amo likol ruach. That which it states in the brisa that there's 2,000 amos in all directions, it should state according to you, if they had das, the people of the city, for this water, then it shouldn't say 2,000 amos in all directions. It should say they should have kiragle b'nei ha'ir. And it doesn't say it. So therefore it cannot be like you're suggesting, Rav Safra.